Hello, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful holiday. Welcome back to the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube for the latest episode of Broncos Now. As always, I'm your host, Sydney Jones. And coming up on today's episode, we'll take a look back at Sunday's game versus the Patriots and look ahead to the final 2 weeks of the season. All that and more coming up. As we take a look back at Sunday's loss versus the Patriots at Empower Field at Mile High, we heard today from head coach Sean Payton as he detailed the offensive struggles versus New England on a Sunday.
I think so many times when we look at some of that stuff, it's self-inflicted problems, and that has to get cleaned up. That's communication. That might be having to reduce, is there too much in? But look, right now we're average to below average, I would say, in a lot of things offensively, and it's not good enough.
Tackle Mike McGlinchey added to that, discussing how the offense needs to be more consistent and how they can get back into a rhythm.
Well, I think it just comes down to execution. I truly believe that. I think it comes down to everybody being on the same page and taking the opportunities that are given to us, whether the right play call, the right defensive look, and capitalizing. Obviously, we didn't do enough of that in the last 2 weeks, and it certainly hurt us in a big way. And it's a matter of playing consistently. It's a matter of playing with great detail and knowing where, how to protect better, how to run the ball better, how to, throw the ball where it needs to be, how to get open better. Whatever the issues have been, it's just about doing it better and being more consistent, because we've shown great things at times on offense this year, and certainly was a huge part of the reason why we turned this thing around. But we got to be more consistent when it matters the most.
Sean Payton also talked about what the next steps for the Broncos are.
I think the ongoing step is understanding how not to lose games before you learn how to win them. And 2/3 of the games we see each weekend are lost before they're ever won. And we're still learning that the hard way.
Inside linebacker Alex Singleton echoed that and talked about how the team is still learning how not to lose games.
Yeah, I think big picture wise, there is that, I think I said it earlier when we kind of got out of, the 1-5 streak. There was a point I think Buffalo was one of those games where, we could have, at certain points, just where they got momentum laid down. This team has learned. I still think when we got kind of in these last few weeks, just kind of getting out of, you can still, revert back to where you've been and stuff. And not that you feel it like we used to on the sideline. I think it's just kind of knowing that, there might be one or two plays that we need to win those plays to win games is something that, we are learning, we have learned, and, we just need to continue to understand those situations and be able to win those to, be able to win these games.
And looking ahead, Sean Payton talked today about what this week's focus will be.
When these guys come in here tomorrow morning, it's the message is going to be about winning this game and our last home game. And, we haven't played well at home considering, or at least the expectations, certainly from Broncos fans and then from my experience of playing at home. And so this is our last opportunity to play a home game, and it's going to be about getting this win. And it's going to be that short-sighted, if you will, just the next 7 days, and then kind of go from there.
And Alex Singleton and Mike McGlinchey added to that, discussing the importance of finishing the season strong.
I think it's huge. I won their division games. I think, those are the most important things. Those are your, original goals when the season starts is to, win the games in the AFC West. So that's obviously foremost. I think it sets us up for where we want to go, and it's our jobs at the end of the day. So, a lot of guys, obviously it's to make the playoffs. We want to continue playing this year. If it's not, a lot of futures, and you want to put the best film on tape. And so to do that, you got to play your best football, and you always want to play your best football in December and January and, further. So to not do that and to not, prepare to be able to do that, it would just be, not just hurting the team, but a disadvantage for yourself.
It's certainly important to who we want to be as an organization and as a team, moving, and especially what we want to be moving forward. I think to be able to be a true professional, you have to be able to put your best work in the hardest times and the biggest times of adversity. And certainly we're going through that right now. But I believe that this team is capable of great things. And, obviously things didn't go our way this past Sunday, but we got to put our best foot forward for these next two games and certainly finish the season on a great note.
Now joining me here in the Broncos podcast studio is Broncos lead writer Eric Dalala. Eric, thanks for joining me today. I hope you had a wonderful holiday yesterday.
Yeah, you too, Sid.
Yeah, well, getting to the news of the day, I know we're now a couple days removed from the game, Eric, but now that you've had time to take a look back, look at the film, I know head coach Sean Payton talked earlier about some of the offensive struggles. What did you see in terms of that?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Sean Payton was saying, which is a lot of it's self-inflicted, it seems like, and that it's got to be better. As Sean Payton said, it's not good enough currently. He talked about the offense ranking, either average or below average in a lot of categories. And I think there's kind of three distinct moments or series, if you will, in this game. In the first quarter, you have three opportunities where you start in New England territory, only able to get 7 points. I like the move to be aggressive there after the opening takeaway by DJ Jones and to go for it there, but you got to find a way to punch it in from the 6-yard line and take that lead. Maybe that gives you, an early momentum boost. Maybe you're able to just kind of put the game out of arm's reach and cruise to a win. Who knows? But you've got to find a way to score there and then score a touchdown when you start inside the 10-yard line and have 4 tries there. And then, get the ball again near the New England 40-yard line, and unfortunately not able to get any points there. Finally, off the Marvin Mims return, you do get a touchdown there to start the game. But that was just, it felt at the time like an opportunity maybe missed by the Broncos and something that could come back to bite them. Then you have a stretch, Sid, where in the middle of the game, second and third quarter, really struggled. A couple of, one fumble, have a bunch of punts, miss a field goal, a long one, granted, at the end of the second quarter. But just you went an extended stretch without scoring any points, and that makes it difficult. It puts you in this hole. Marvin Mims has been such an advantage in the return game, but then he has the fumble that's picked up and returned for a touchdown. And so you're just in a hole. And then you find at the end of the game a lot of success, throwing the football down the field, guys make plays, Jerry Jeudy, Marvin Mims. You see people have a big impact there in the passing game, and it was kind of that up-tempo attack. But like Sean Payton said, that doesn't necessarily work the whole game, and it's hard to, I think he said, make a living based on that being your base offense. And so the Broncos do need to find a way to be better on offense. And as Mike McGlinchey said, whether it's people blocking, whether it's people running the ball, throwing the ball, catching the ball, everybody's got to be better and eliminate some of those self-inflicted wounds, improve their execution so that this offense can get back to where we know it can be and where it has been at times this year.
Yeah, definitely. Eric, you mentioned the fourth quarter. I know Mike McGlinchey, he talked more about that today and talked about kind of the spontaneous nature of those comebacks. Why do you think that's so different for them later in the game?
Well, I think, one, that's where Russell Wilson's at his best, right, when he can kind of move around, make plays, and certainly able to make him plays kind of in a variety of different ways, but he does seem to have that knack for making plays in the clutch, bringing this team back. And I think they were able to be aggressive and push the ball down the field. Guys like Marvin Mims, Jerry Jeudy, Lucas Kroll, Javonte Williams, a bunch of guys start making plays, Brandon Johnson, and you're able to find success. And I think that was the biggest difference is you had to push the ball down the field, and they did it successfully, and guys made plays.
Well, Eric, on the defense, they got off to a good start. First play of the game, like you mentioned, DJ Jones get that strip sack. They're able to hold off the Patriots in the first half, but not so much in the second half. What was just your impressions of their performance overall?
Yeah, obviously a kind of a tough stretch there in the third quarter. A couple of touchdowns led up, and then there was the big play late, right, where the Broncos are calling timeout, hoping to get the ball back. Bailey Zappi ends up finding a receiver down the field for a big gain that puts them kind of within range where now you just need a couple of short plays to get in kind of the edge of field goal range, and Chatter Island makes a big kick. I think Alex Singleton talked about, they're really good, kind of that opening script, planning for what the opponent's going to do. It's then about adjusting, and whatever they're doing off of that, the stuff that they're going to do, finding a way to stop that as well. And, there are a couple series there where the Broncos probably would like to have some plays back down the field, one-on-one. Again, the Patriots receivers made some great plays, so you have to credit them for that. And the defense did bounce back kind of toward the end before that last drive, a couple of big stops to give the Broncos offense a chance to get back in the football game. But it just has to be a little bit more consistent. Obviously, the rush was there a little bit more. It felt like in the first half. Can they get back to doing that? And they'll face another challenge this week.
Right. Overall, Eric, when you look back to the 5-game win streak, what do you feel like in recent weeks has really changed for this team?
Yeah, I mean, I asked Sean Payton that on Tuesday, and his answer is very succinct and to the point. It's turning the ball over. Yeah. And during that winning streak, the Broncos took care of the ball. They took the ball away. They won the turnover margin. And we heard Sean talk on Tuesday about 2/3 of the games in this league are lost. They're not won. The team gives them away, and clearly he feels like over the last couple of weeks the Broncos have given some of these games away. I mean, you think back to Houston with a bunch of turnovers there. Obviously, the Broncos turned it over twice against the Patriots, and Sean was saying probably should have lost it or should have turned the ball over several more times based on how often the ball was on the ground.
Yeah.
So it's got to be about getting back to protecting the football, and it sounds simple, and it's not necessarily like exciting of, we've got to have more 50-yard chunk plays or we've got to have more huge hits or game-changing touchdowns or whatever. A lot of it is just New England turned the ball over early, but then they didn't. And so even when you're not playing great on offense, if you can punt the ball away, play field position, you're going to find a way to grind out some games that maybe you're not playing your best football in. And unfortunately, a couple of those turnovers, certainly the one that led directly to points with Marvin. And again, credit to him for after the game standing there and talking about that mistake. He really owned it. Impressive maturity from the rookie, but that was a big moment. And so, if you take that away, maybe you're looking at a different football game there at the end.
Well, Eric, I know, head coach Sean Payton, he talked about today how this team is still learning how not to lose these games. Do you feel like within the final 2 weeks here of the season, that's kind of the main focus in learning how to just get better in that category?
Yeah, I think these final 2 weeks are big in that it can kind of set the tone for the season. And obviously the Broncos are not technically eliminated from playoff contention. If the Chiefs lose twice and the Broncos win twice, Denver wins the AFC West. So it's not over. The odds are obviously not great there. There's another kind of 9 games that you'd all need to go right to get a wild card spot. So that is kind of still, floating out there, but you've got to focus on this week against the Chargers. And there's still, I think, a lot on the line in that you can sweep a division opponent for the first time since 2019. True. You could end a 7-game losing streak, an extended losing streak to the Raiders. You could earn your first winning record since 2016 and kind of end that streak here, which has obviously gone on a long time. And I think it just sets the tone for the upcoming offseason of a little bit more positivity. And even if you ultimately fall short of the playoffs, I think you'd look at it and say, okay, well, we went 8-3 over our last 11 games. And we dropped one of the Patriots that we wish we had, or we wish we'd been able to throw a touchdown into the end zone against Houston, when we've got a chance there. But ultimately, we dug ourselves too big of a hole with that 1-5 start. But we finished strong. We're building towards something. This is the type of team we can be. And that's what the Lions did last year, right? We talked a lot about them, and they ultimately did come up a game short of the playoffs last season. Even after that long run. But look where they are now. And so I do still think there's a lot to play for. Now, it's not going to be easy. You got to beat a Chargers team for the second time. Never easy to beat a team twice. And then the Raiders just went on the road and beat the Chiefs. They're playing inspired football. Yeah. They've got an outside chance at the playoffs, depending on if they win this week in Indianapolis. So it's not going to be easy, but there's still certainly a lot of value. And you're right. Part of that is learning how not to lose. And can the Broncos get back to that, which, as Alex Singleton said, in the midst of that 5-game winning streak, it kind of felt like they'd figured it out. But I think the last couple of weeks have shown us this may be a little bit longer or it may just take a little more time than might not have been as simple as flipping the switch there with a win over the Packers. And now it's fixed. Still a learning process.
Definitely. Well, like you said, Eric, a lot to look forward to still here. Appreciate you coming on the show.
You got it, Sid.
Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Broncos Now, Broncos Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll meet you right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube tomorrow for another episode. I will see you all then.